Hey guys, Rhonda Draculas here, RK3 Designs, and today we're gonna upcycle a cute little table. This little table was just a garage sale find. I did its matching partner the other night when I did a live on my Facebook page. And it really turned out so pretty that I was inundated with text and phone calls and emails, people wanting me to do this one. So here we are. I sanded it, cleaned it really well. I took the 90-degree ledge that was on this table, I hit it with my sander and I took it down a bit so that it's not a hard 90 degrees. Epoxy doesn't like 90-degree angles. A lot of times if you leave those hard edges, you'll get a ridge of epoxy. It won't want to flow over that ridge, and then when it dries, you have like a little bump. So I just hit it very lightly. I still have a ridge, but it doesn't have a 90-degree edge on it. Also, I turned the table upside down so that it kind of is rounded as well. It's not a hard 90 degrees. So that way now when my product flows over the table, it's not going to leave a ridge right there. So if you have the capability of taking a piece of furniture and doing that, then I highly suggest you take off any 90-degree angles if you can. Then I used the new product from Stone Coat Countertop. I absolutely love it. It is their epoxy undercoat. It is fabulous. I've replaced the bare paint and primer that I normally use on this table because it literally dried in an hour and I'm able to pour it the same day. I love this. It's water-based. I haven't tried tinting it yet, but what I am going to show you what we're going to do, because I know I'm going to put some copper metallic colors on this table. I'm going to show you how to alleviate that black showing through your epoxy as your epoxy breaks over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take aged rust, which is Rust-Oleum. You could take any metallic brown to do this. I just want to mask these and camouflage this dark edge. So here we go. Now, if you'll notice, I'm not going to paint where I'm leaving a very hard line like that. I don't want to leave a hard line with my paint like that, because then when I do a pour, that hard line may transfer up through my finish. So I'm going to soften that out a little bit. And like I said, the only reason I'm doing this is to soften those edges so that you don't see black. So I'm going to let that dry. Then what we're going to do is we're going to tape our edges, because in this finish, I want to capture the epoxy before it runs off the edge, and I want it to sit there for just a little bit. And then I'm going to pull the tape off. Then we will get the epoxy to run over the edge. Let me tell you why we do that. As we pour my finish on top, that finish is going to continue to move. The pattern's going to move. It's going to stretch out. If I were not to tape these edges up and I did my finish, the epoxy would continue to flow because it's self-leveling. It would continue to flow off the edges and I would lose the pattern. I wouldn't lose it, but I would really stretch it out, which is what I don't want to do. By taping up my edges, I'm helping that epoxy not level out so fast. So it's starting to set up, therefore my pattern that I have on top is going to stay more like it is when I originally poured it, if that made some sense. So we're going to tape up the edges, let it set. After we pour, take the tape off and see what happens. Okay, so we're back. We've let the spray paint dry. I've taped up my edges. And when I do tape on edges on a round surface, I like to take little pieces of tape and kind of stick them together because it kind of helps with the curve. All right, so now we're going to start. And I'm going to start off with just black epoxy tinted with Stone Coat Countertop's Alumilite Opaque Black. Basically, all this is going to do is be kind of a lube coat. But because I'm putting a little more than I normally do as a lube coat, that black's going to kind of peekaboo through and almost look like veins. It'll be really cool. And I'm not too worried about getting this perfect on here. I just really want it to help that epoxy to flow and to run. I'm not really spreading it out perfectly even. I'm leaving clumps or puddles, I guess you would call it, because when we do the next step, those puddles are gonna cause little veins. Now we're gonna start adding color, almost like a dirty pour, but I'm not gonna use any spray paint between my layers. All right, so I'm taking my old cup that I had the black in, not worried about cleaning it out. I'm gonna start adding to it. So the first thing I'm gonna add is gonna be copper mica powder. And I'm just gonna kind of put it down in there. Now I'm gonna grab brown mica powder. And I'm just gonna layer. This is coffee. I have a little bit of clay. Clay will really take over a piece if you let it. So be very conservative on your clay. I'm gonna go back to my first brown, which was the copper. Brown, going in the same order as I did. Coffee. All right, so now this time, I'm gonna throw in a little bit of my Just Resin in deep blue because I just want those blues to pop out ever so randomly. And that's all I'm doing is just adding, layering until I'm out of paint. Now this time I'm gonna pour quite a bit of the blue. I almost want like a blue vein running through there. So I'm gonna use the rest of my blue. And I'm gonna throw it on there. I'm gonna dump out the rest of my colors. These dirty pours have gotten really popular because they make a piece look very realistic and there's endless color combinations that you can do. Let those drain down a little bit, then we'll go to the next step, which is pouring all of the pretty colors on the surface. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna very randomly pour it. Oh, I love how that blue is coming out in this. And as those little strings come out, really leave some pretty colors. All right, neat. I'm gonna heat it up. All right, now I'm gonna tilt the table. If you don't have a way to tilt, you can do this step by just using a heat gun. Now I'm trying to get that to flow over my edges. Now see how that black is starting to make its own type of veins? I love that. When you do any type of dirty pour, you're gonna wanna use about 30% more product, and that lets you have enough material to do what I'm doing, which is manipulate it and get it to move around. Now I am really liking this, but I want this edge right here to move a little better, so I'm gonna heat it up. Like I said, if you don't have the ability to move your project, that's okay. You can do all of this with a heat gun. I've done dressers where I've actually taken the top. I was able to take the top off the dresser, do the pour, and then reattach it. Now, even though I did the other table last week, I used the exact same colors and pretty much the same, well, like the exact technique, but you're always gonna get different looks. You'll never recreate it exactly. Now I'm gonna try to get this pattern back into the middle of my table because I really like this corner, but I want some of that black to be more in the middle of the table. So you'll never recreate this piece exactly over again, but you'll definitely be able to use the same colors and get a similar look. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this leftover epoxy that's in the reservoir here, and I'm just gonna address my edges. All right, oh, I like that right there. Really pretty. So like I said, this piece is gonna continue to move. So that's why I taped it. Should have probably put one more layer of tape. I usually put 2 layers. So it just kind of ensures that my tape's not gonna fall off. You can also do your edges by just taking your tape, bending it up, and that epoxy will go back over your edges. And what I'm doing is I'm just bringing that up. Okay, so we're gonna let this set about probably 10 or 15 minutes. We're gonna come back and hit it with a little bit of alcohol, and then we'll be done. Okay, so as I'm waiting for this to go to the next step where we're gonna add alcohol, I had a little bit of clay left, and you know, my brain's always working, so I thought, let's play with it a little bit. So I'm gonna take this. It's been sitting in the cup for a little bit, so it's getting a little stringy. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of play, and I'm gonna run this around and kind of give me some really neat looks. I'm just gonna kind of follow this black around. And then as it fades out, my lines will fade out a little bit. Starting off the table, so I don't get a big blob like I did there, but that's okay, it's gonna move. This is my problem, I never know when to stop. Because this epoxy is still so fresh, these lines are gonna really soften out, and they won't look like hard veins. They'll just meld out and be really pretty. I'm gonna hit it with a torch a little bit. I'm actually gonna tilt it just a tiny bit to soften those hard edges on those veins that I just did. Just a little bit, just enough to soften up those lines. Now we're gonna come in with some alcohol. 91% isopropyl alcohol mixed with real teal mica powder that I get from Stone Coat Countertop. And I want this to have big, big drops. So instead of using the bottle to spray it, I'm gonna put it in my hand. And I'm just gonna drop it all over the table. Now I'm gonna come in with some clear, because I don't really wanna add any more color, but I still want a few of those effects. So I'm gonna come hit them in the areas that are open. Okay, so we're done. All we have to do, wait another 20 or 30 minutes, take our tape off, let those edges run over, and then we have a cool little table. So if you like what you saw and you'd like to get some more information and see some additional pictures of this piece, click the link below. It'll take you to our website. If you like what you saw in this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. And remember, don't be scared, move forward, and be creative.